Okay, good morning, boys and girls. How are you today?
Good.
All right. We are back again today, and we are back again to discuss and plan the trip that we're taking to Kennedy Space Center. Now, all of you know that we have been working over the past couple of weeks, and we have a challenge ahead of us. Remember, we had the challenge of planning and finding information out about Kennedy Space Center. So that's what we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. Don't forget, we've also been talking about the Big Six. And we are now on step 3 of the Big Six, and that's locating and accessing the information. That's where we are in our project. But I want to stop for a minute and let's review a little bit. Let's remind ourselves, step 1. If you remember, step 1 was define the task. Anybody want to tell us what they think define the task means? Okay, Emma, what do you think it means?
You go over what we're doing.
Exactly. You go over what you've been given to do. So, if we were going to define our task, we would go back to the beginning. We would go back to our project that we're doing together. And that is, we are planning our trip to Kennedy Space Center. Each of you has an area of the Space Center that you are finding out information about. When we finish finding our information, we're going to put it all together, and then we're going to present it and share, so then we all have a lot of knowledge about the trip that we're going on. So the first step was we defined our task. Okay, well, after we defined our task, our second step for this is, where are we going to find the information? We call that information, and I'm going to use info, seeking. Okay, that's where we went and we wrote down that great big long list, and we said to ourselves, okay, I have to find out this information. Where am I going to go to find it? Can you give me some suggestions, if you can remember from our great long list, of where would we be going? What would be some suggestions to use to find this information? All right, Jessie, would you tell us one of? I'm sorry.
Internet.
Oh, okay, on the internet. That was one place we could go. Good. Could somebody tell me another place, as we were coming up with ideas, how to find this information? We're just seeking it out. We haven't found it yet. Blake?
Books.
Okay, we could go to books. Can you think of some other sources? Okay. Brennan, would you tell us one?
Somebody who's already been there.
Exactly. We could interview. Remember we used that word? We could interview someone who's already been there. Exactly. And Jacayla, can you think of one more that we could use?
Nonfiction.
Okay, we could go to the nonfiction, and that would be nonfiction what? Jacayla?
Books.
They would be books. So that would be a great place to look in books. Can you think of any place else that we could go to that would give us information? What do you think? Okay, we're going to get to that part. The internet we've said. Can you think of any other way that we could gather information on this topic? We've said books, we've said internet, we've said talk to somebody that's already been there. What else could we do there? How could we get the information? Yes, Brennan?
Call NASA.
Okay, we might phone call either NASA, we could do that.
Or NASA official.
Okay, or someone who works there. Could we send, and we don't do this very often, do we? Could we send a letter? Can you imagine that? Write a letter? Could we write a letter and mail and say, could you please, maybe NASA or Cape Kennedy, could we send them a letter and say, could you send back anything you have on this topic? That would be another one. We don't use letters writing anymore very much. Okay, so we went through step 1, we defined our task. We went through step 2, we wanted to find out where we were going to go to find our information. And today we're on step 3. Step 3 is, okay, let's locate it. Let's go find. You said you were going to go to the internet. You said you were going to go to a book. Now we have to actually go find it. So we're on step 3, and we're going to locate and access it. Okay, locate and access. And today we're going to specifically talk about one of the sources that I'm sure we will all be using, and that is the internet. Now, when you use the internet to access information, you have to know how to access the information well, okay? You have to be able to know how to go to the internet and get the information quickly. And then you have to know, well, I'm there, I got the information quickly, but is this information the information I need? And is it any good? One of the things that we don't think about, when somebody writes a book that we have on our library shelves, who puts that book all together? What's the name of that company? What do we call that company? Puts it all together. Emma? A little bit louder.
The publisher?
Exactly, the publisher puts it together. Before it even gets to the publisher, probably about 4 or 5 people have gone over that material, and they have looked at it like you do in your classrooms. Did they spell words right? Did they put periods in there? Did they use the correct vocabulary? And some people are also looking at that book and they're saying, is it true? Because once you get it on that shelf and you take it off as a book, you assume that it's what? True. And a lot of times we take it for true because it should be. People have looked over the material to say if it's true or not. But the internet, guess what? There's no publisher looking at every website. Can you imagine? Looking at every website and saying, oh yeah, that's true. That information that you're getting is true. That information you're getting was given in the last few months. There's nobody to tell you that. So you have to be the good detectives and decide, is what I found on the internet what I need, and is it reliable? And that's what we're going to talk about now as far as when we're going to locate our information. Okay, let's take our eyes and let's put them up on the screen. And today we're going to be talking about how to use what we call a search engine. Good, let's go. It's time for me to use the internet. Ooh, I'm excited because the teacher's going to let me use the computer. I sit down, I know what I've got to get. How do I get it? Okay, how do I get the information? What you can use is what we call a search engine. And today we're going to talk about how to use a search engine, and we're going to talk about 2 that you can use. So let's take a look. What is a search engine? With the billions and billions of web pages out there, how can you know exactly where to look to find what you need? Search engines are websites that will help you to find this information. All you need to do is type in a word or words, a phrase, and the search engine will go out there and it will look for that information for you. And within seconds, you can have a listing of internet sites for you. And to find websites on a specific topic, you can use a search engine. Search engines, they help you to find what you need on the internet. Otherwise, I'm not sure what we would do without them. All right, here's a search engine that most of you probably have seen, and that is the search engine called Google. Google is a search engine that has been developed by that company. Now, a lot of us have used Google, and it is a great, and I use Google 3 or 4 times every day. It's a great tool to use. But I don't want you to think that the only search engine out there is Google. There are others. Some of you may be familiar with those others. But we do know what Google looks like. When you use Google, you just type in your term, and you'll notice that term was Kennedy Space Center. And when you enter it, it's going to begin to give you thousands and thousands of listings on whatever you typed in. What did we type in as our keyword in this search? What did we type in? Caroline?
Kennedy Space Center.
Exactly, Kennedy Space Center. Why? Because that's what we're wanting to find out about. We wanted to find out about. We click enter, and if you'll look up at the top where it says about, that is 8. What? Can you read that where it says about, and it gives a number of results? Can you read that? Read that number? A little, Marine, give it a try.
1,000.
Nope. Where it says search and about. I don't know if this has a.
It said about.
It doesn't work. About how many?
3,000.
Okay. 8. I can't read it from there. Jocelyn, you want to try?
8,400.
It's not 8,400. Brennan?
8,400,000.
That's,
About.
that's right. There's over 8 million listings that they have listed, if you want to take the time to do it, to find about Kennedy Space Center. Do you mean I have to go through 8 million of them? Hope not. And that's what we're going to look at today. All right, so that was Google search. When you get a search page, most of those search pages will look like this. And there's a couple of things you should know when you look at Google. Some of you may have noticed it already. Have you ever noticed on the right-hand side of the page, you get a bunch of listings, and when you look at them sometimes, they don't look like what I need. Anybody know what those are? Yes, Jessica? That's right, they're advertisements. They're trying to sell you something. So you should know that the advertisements are on the other side of the page. You also know at the top of the web, the Google search, that's also usually what? What is that usually up at the top? It looks like, oh, these must be the ones I should search. But really, they do something to, I don't know if they're trying to trick you, but they get something to get you to use it. Emma, what do you think?
They're advertisements.
They're advertisements too. So you usually need to go down to about the 3rd result to start your search. Because the first 2 are, what does Cuisinart coffee makers have to do with Kennedy Space Center? Something in the advertising must have keyed off those words. So anyway, we just need to know, don't start clicking on the first 2 because that's not going to get you where you want. All right, remember I said Google is not the only search engine out there. So when you go to find your information on the internet, you can use another search engine. And this is the one that we're going to kind of try out today. It is called KidRex. And it is a search engine that is a Google search engine. In other words, Google has put it out. It's a Google product, but it's a Google product for kids. It means it's a little bit safer, and instead of 8 million searches, you're probably going to go through 20 or 30 of them. And they'll be the most relevant for kids. So KidRex looks like this. Very simple to do. You just type in your keyword. Next, you type in search like you normally do. And then you start to get a listing. Well, I guess you did get a lot of listings with this one too. But you can start to take a look at them. Those first two are usually some ads. Do you see right under where it says about 7 million? If you look right under there, it says ads by Google.
Yeah.
Those are advertisements. So we go down to where the line is to get our first entry. And can somebody read what the first entry would be? Can you read that, Caroline?
Children's Play-Doh.
Exactly. So you look at that. Is that something that looks like what I need? Well, if it is, you click on it and see if it's going to give you information. All right, there is another web engine, a search engine, that you can also use besides what we always go to, which is Google. And that is AskKids.com. This one used to be called I think it was Ask Jeeves for kids, but it's now called Ask Kids. It is kind of more fun, entertainment, but it will still work as a search engine for you, something that can be a search engine for you and kind of a safer search engine. It's just like the other one. You type in your key term like Kennedy Space Center, search, and then you'll get a listing that looks something like that. Then you can go through, and there's even some ad spaces up at the top. Did you notice that? Okay. Come down to about the first listing, which is Kennedy Center Calendar. Might be what you need. NASA, Kennedy Space Center homepage. You can see if that's something that you need. So those are two search engines beside Google that you can use. In a few minutes, we're going to be using it. Okay, review for just a minute. What's the search engine that most of us use, or have our parents use, or many of us use? What's it called, Isaac? All right, Google. It is fine to use, but there are some better ones for school kids to use. And there were two that I introduced. Do you remember what the two were called? And I probably, not many of you have used these before. Jacqueline, what was one?
Kids Rex.
Kids Rex. And if you want to think about, oh, that's the dinosaur one. Okay, that's the one with the big dinosaur. That is put out by Google. So it should be pretty, fairly easy for you to use. What's the other one called, Brennan?
Ask Kids.
All right, Ask Kids. And it's very easy, AskKids.com. You can get to them quickly. All right. What about when I type in? How many of you have ever typed in a search engine and you don't get what you want? Okay, yeah, you get all these listings and you're like, but that's not what I want. That's not giving me what I need. Here's some things that you can do when you're typing search engines. I love how I'm looking over Jacqueline and her eyes are looking and showing me what a listener does. Brennan is also. Tips for using search engines. The more specific, that means the more information that you give about your topic, the more you'll find. Tell the search engine exactly what you want to find. If you're doing Kennedy Space Center, maybe you're doing Kennedy Space Center. When I type in, how many of you have ever typed in a search engine and you don't? Once you get to that website, you find that great website through using a search engine like KidRex, and you say to yourself, wow, look at all these searches I can do. Look at all these results that I get. Here, I've gone to this great page. It's going to tell me all about the Space Shuttle experience. Wow. When I get there, though, I've got to ask myself some questions about this center, or about this space, because remember what I told you at the very beginning? Who is checking these websites?
Nobody.
What?
Nobody.
No one. You have to be the detective to see if this site is helpful for you. Okay, there's 8 questions. They're called quick checks. When you get to those websites, 8 questions you can ask yourself. The first one is, when you get to that website, who is the author of it? You've got to go in the website and try to find out who wrote this. I want you to take, for instance, the example of, say you were looking for horse information. Okay? And you went to a website that said it was about horses and you could find beautiful horses and blah, 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 blah. And you went to the website and you said, okay, I wonder who wrote this website. And you went and you found out who the author was, and they were people that sold horse saddles. Now wait a minute. I was looking for information about horses and I got to a website. I thought it was going to be about horses, but it's really about selling me saddles for horses. That's why it's important to find out who wrote your website. Okay, next you want to say, I get there to my website, I find out that this is a website about horses where I'm going to just find some information out about horses, and hopefully it'll be what I need. I have to say, is it clear what the website's all about? Remember the example we gave before? We thought we were getting information about horses, didn't we? What were we getting information about? About a saddle, and it wasn't really what I wanted. But if they started off and the website is called the best horse saddles around, I would know what the purpose of that website was. To buy a saddle, to find saddles. As I read through it, was I getting information about that topic? That's what it means by, was the aim clear? Did they do what they say they were going to do? If they did, I can check that off and say, so far, this is a good website. Number 3, did it give the information that it was trying to give or aiming for? That goes along with number 2, the aim. Then, is the site relevant to me? Is the site relevant to me? Okay, we went to the site, we were looking for information about horses, how to ride them, what kind of horses there were. We were looking for all that information, and then what did I find? What did I find the website, Marina?
Trying to sell it.
Saddle. Do I need that? No. So is that website relevant to me? No. I need to go on. That's how I check for reliability. Okay. Is there anywhere, I find a website, it's on horses, it tells me about names of horses, it tells me about how to care for horses. It seems like it has everything I could possibly want. I need to look at the site and I need to say, can I check this out? How do I know these people are telling the truth? Is there anything on the site like links to other websites that makes their information true so I can kind of check up on their information? When I look at a site, I have to say, is there anything, do I notice links on here? Do I notice things that are going to say, you know what, this information is true, and they're even wanting me to back it up by going and looking. Okay? Number 6. All right, when was the site produced? When you look at a book, how do you know when a book was written? I know you know this from first and second. How do you know when a book was written? Jessica? The copyright date. You go into the book, you go on the verso page, there it is. It tells you 2010. You know when it was. And so you also know that the information's a little old. This stuff was looking at some library books, and they were from 1960. Whoa. You know that that information is way outdated. What about a website? How do you know if a website is giving you information that was written 40 years ago? Or 10 years ago, or 5 years ago? It's probably old by now. You need to be able to find that out. Number 7, here's one that we often don't think about. Is it biased? Okay, I want you to think about the horse example for a minute. We wanted to find out horse what?
Horse information.
Horse information. So we get to a site, we said we got to a saddle site that sold saddles. That wasn't good for us. What if we got to a site where people thought it was terrible, and there are people, to ride horses? They think it's cruel for people to get up and ride horses. Get on their backs and ride. What if we went to a site like that? And then what if we went to another site where it told you how to ride horses, what kind of saddles you need? Do you think you would get the same type of information from those different riders? No. Do you think you're going to get on that website where the people don't think you should ride, or you should ride horses or any animal? Do you think you're going to get the same kind of information about? No. And that's what we call bias. Is it fair? Who is the group that's thinking, who's giving you this information? What's behind them? What do they think about what you're doing? Okay, last check. Are you able to get more information about the subject? That's where you look at the web page and you say, does it give me other places to go? Link. You need to get this check site in your, this checklist in your mind. You can go up and next to 1. The first thing we need to ask about our website is who is the author? Would you put a check next to number 1? Okay. Second thing we need to say to ourselves, what is the aim of the website? What are they trying to get across? Are they the group that's trying to tell you don't ride animals? Are they trying to sell you a saddle? Or are they just trying to inform you about animals? So let's check to see what the aim is. Right next to 2. There you go. Did it give the information that I wanted? Okay, I get there. It is what I wanted, and then I say to myself, well, I'm looking through it. It says it's a website about horses. Wait a minute. It's trying to sell me saddles. Did it give me the information? Nope, it did not. So check that one off. Then I want to, in my checklist, say, was the site useful? I wanted information about horses. I got information about saddles. Was that helpful? Nope. Let's see. Number 5 was, can I check the information? Is there anybody that tells me that this information is true? Or will I go to another website and find that out? And a good thing that a lot of websites do is they not only tell you it's true, they'll give you places to go to prove what they're saying is true. Okay, and that was 5. How old is it? Is number 6. Go ahead and check 6. Is the information fair? Well, if it came from the people that don't think you should ride animals, do you think that's very fair? No. If you're trying to find out how to ride a horse, you're not going to get information that you want. And finally, do you get links? Do they give you places to find out more?
No. The second one actually. One that
Who in the world?
What do you do?
Okay, so we can see that it's not like a company trying to sell us
Oh, you stealing from me! You son of a gun!
It looks like
You got that from me!
yeah, you can do that. Guys, when you're trying to figure out who wrote your site, who's the author of your site, is it a company, whatever it is, go down to the bottom of the page, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll look for something that says About Us. If you'll find down at that, at the very bottom of the page, there's usually, sometimes even at the top, it says About Us. And you can kind of go through that and maybe find the author, or it may tell you right off. Or it may mean you have to read and get an idea. Is it a company? Is it a government agency? What is it? It is. Yeah. Okay. The next one is where we were before. Also, one of the questions says, 1, 2, 3, look at me. 1, 2, 3, look at me. Thank you, Brennan. Caroline. One of the questions says, can you contact them? You can look at the top menu bar, you can look down at the bottom of a page, and usually there's a place that says contact or contact me. If you click on those, usually it'll take you to where you can write an email and ask the website a question. Don't do that now,